Number 1. The giant that spans 2 continents. Russia, the largest country in the world. Its territory stretches across 17.1 million square kilometers, covering 11 time zones, from the icy shores of the Arctic Ocean to the warm beaches of the Black Sea. Can you imagine taking a train from one end to the other? The legendary Trans-Siberian Railway takes more than 7 days non-stop to cross, making it the longest continuous rail journey on Earth. Despite its vastness, only about 146 million people live here, meaning some areas are almost empty, endless tundras and forests where you can walk for days without meeting another human being. Strangely, more than 70% of the population lives in the western part, near Europe, while Siberia, which makes up about 77% of the land, is inhabited by only 25 million people. Russia's climate is extreme. Winters in Yakutsk can reach 50 degrees Celsius, yet in Sochi, people swim in the sea while Olympic ski resorts operate just a short drive away. From volcanoes in Kamchatka to the world's deepest lake, Baikal, Russia's geography is a showcase of natural superlatives. And here's a mind-blowing fact. If you could flatten Russia into a single time zone, sunrise in one corner would be almost a full working day later in another. Isn't that wild? Do you think size makes Russia more powerful or harder to manage? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to James Baker, Discovery Global, so you won't miss our next world exploration. Number 2. A history written in blood and revolution. Russia's history is a saga of empires, revolutions, and contradictions. For centuries, it was ruled by the mighty czars, crowned in the golden domes of Moscow and St. Petersburg. Names like Ivan the Terrible, Peter the Great, and Catherine the Great reshaped the nation into a European superpower. But grandeur often came with brutality. Ivan IV allegedly blinded the architects of St. Basil's Cathedral so they could never replicate its beauty. Peter the Great forced noblemen to shave their beards under penalty of tax, dragging Russia toward Western customs. Then came 1917, the Russian Revolution. The Tsar was executed and the Soviet Union was born. Under Lenin, Stalin, and later leaders, the USSR transformed from a peasant society into an industrial and military titan, but at a horrifying cost. Famines, gulags, and purges claimed millions of lives. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, many thought Russia would quickly embrace democracy and capitalism. Instead, the 1,990 seconds brought chaos. Mafia gangs ruled the streets, fortunes were made overnight, and poverty exploded. From that turbulence emerged a new strongman, Vladimir Putin, who continues to shape Russia's political destiny today. Shocking fact: Stalin's image is still revered by some Russians who see him as a wartime hero, despite being responsible for millions of deaths. Would you ever admire a dictator if he also brought strength to your country? Number 3. The language of power and poetry. Russian is spoken by over 258 million people worldwide, making it one of the most influential languages on Earth. The Cyrillic alphabet, with its bold shapes and sounds, was developed in the 9th century and remains a cultural symbol of Slavic identity. Russian literature gave the world names like Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Chekhov, and Pushkin, writers whose works continue to shape global philosophy and art. Imagine, Tolstoy's War and Peace has over 1,200 characters, more than some entire television series. But Russian is also notoriously difficult for foreigners. With 6 grammatical cases, verbs of motion that change depending on direction, and words like zdravstvuyte, hello, that can twist your tongue, it's considered one of the hardest languages to master. And here's something unusual. Russia is home to over 100 minority languages. In the Republic of Dagestan alone, more than 30 distinct languages are spoken in daily life. Can you imagine growing up in a village where the next town speaks an entirely different language? Number 4. Beauty, strength, and the Russian woman. Russian women have long fascinated the world. Often described as tall, elegant, and striking, they combine Slavic features with influences from Europe and Asia. High cheekbones, pale skin in the north, olive tones in the south, and captivating blue or green eyes. Russian beauty is as diverse as the landscape, but beyond looks lies resilience. During World War II, millions of women served as snipers, pilots, and medics on the front lines. The Night Witches, an all-female bomber regiment, terrified German troops by flying silent night raids in wooden planes. Today, Russian women balance modern ambitions with traditional roles. Many pursue careers in science, engineering, or the arts, while also expected to be graceful and family-oriented. Interestingly, Russia has one of the highest female-to-male ratios in the world, about 10 million more women than men, due in part to war casualties and lower male life expectancy. This imbalance has shaped dating culture. Men often say they don't need to try too hard, while women put significant effort into appearance. Is that fair, or just another cultural contradiction? Number 5. Roads, rails, and the Siberian dream. Traveling in Russia is like crossing a planet of its own. The Trans-Siberian Railway, stretching nearly 9,300 kilometers from Moscow to Vladivostok, is a journey that takes you across mountains, endless forests, and 16 major rivers, including the mighty Volga and Amur. Some call it the spine of Russia. But outside the famous train routes, transportation can be shocking. Did you know Russia has entire cities with no road connections to the rest of the country? Norilsk, one of the world's northernmost cities, is accessible only by plane or riverboat. In winter, frozen rivers become ice highways. But when spring arrives, these roads literally melt away. Russia also has some of the deadliest roads in Europe. Long distances, poor maintenance in remote areas, and reckless driving have earned it a reputation where survival feels like an achievement. Yet at the same time, Russia is home to some of the most modern subway systems in the world. The Moscow metro isn't just transport, it's an underground museum filled with chandeliers, mosaics, and marble columns. No wonder it's nicknamed the People's Palace. And here's a crazy fact. Russia still operates fleets of Soviet-era military aircraft repurposed as civilian planes, some more than 50 years old. Would you dare to board one of those for a flight across Siberia? Number 6. The engine of oil, gas, and power. Russia's economy is built on natural resources, especially oil and natural gas. It controls some of the largest reserves on Earth, supplying much of Europe and Asia. Some analysts even say, if Russia turns off the gas, half of Europe freezes. That's how much energy power it holds. But Russia's wealth isn't just underground. It's also above ground in its forests, which cover more than half the country, producing a massive share of the world's timber. And let's not forget diamonds. Russia is one of the top producers globally. Yet, despite such natural riches, ordinary Russians often struggle with economic inequality. The country has more billionaires per capita than most nations, while pensions for seniors can be shockingly low. A surreal paradox. In Moscow, you'll see luxury cars like Bentleys and Lamborghinis parked just meters away from grandmothers selling vegetables on the street to survive. Politics and economics are tightly bound. Western sanctions in recent years have isolated Russia from many global markets, forcing it to pivot trade toward China, India, and other non-Western allies. But in typical Russian fashion, hardship often sparks pride. Many locals say, "We survived Mongols, we survived Nazis, we survived collapse, we will survive this too." Number 7. Faith, legends, and mysticism. Religion in Russia is dominated by Eastern Orthodoxy, with the golden domes of churches glittering across cities and villages. The Russian Orthodox Church plays not just a spiritual role, but often a political one, shaping national identity and morality. But Russia is also a land of folk magic and legends. In rural areas, belief in domovoi, household spirits, and rusalki, water maidens, still lingers. Some villagers leave bread in attics for the domovoi, fearing bad luck if they don't. Then, there are eerie stories from Siberia, like the Dyatlov Pass incident of 1959, where 9 hikers died under mysterious circumstances. Their tent was found slashed from the inside, their bodies scattered with strange injuries, and some with radiation traces. Was it military testing, an avalanche, or something far stranger? The case remains unsolved, fueling endless speculation. And don't forget Lake Baikal, the oldest and deepest lake on Earth. Locals call it the Sacred Sea. Strange lights and UFO sightings have been reported here for decades, with divers even claiming encounters with mysterious aquatic humanoids in Soviet military reports. Do you believe such legends hide truth, or are they just products of Russia's wild imagination? Number 8. The sinful side. Vodka, vice, and wild nights. No discussion of Russia is complete without mentioning vodka. It's more than a drink, it's a cultural symbol, a medicine, a tradition, and sometimes a curse. Russians toast with "Na zdorovi" to health. Yet excessive drinking has fueled social problems for centuries. At one point, vodka sales made up nearly 40% of government revenue. But beyond vodka, lies nightlife that surprises many visitors. Moscow and St. Petersburg host some of the most extravagant clubs in Europe. Wealthy elites arrive in black SUVs, while world-class DJs play until dawn. In these clubs, champagne bottles can cost thousands of dollars, while just outside, street kiosks sell cheap beer and snacks for students. Then there's a darker side. Prostitution, though illegal, thrives in many cities, often under the radar of authorities. Russia also has a reputation for sinful luxury casinos, high-stakes poker, and underground strip shows, especially in resort cities on the Black Sea. Yet perhaps the most shocking contrast, while cities glow with neon and nightlife, countless rural villages sit in silence, with no running water or heating. Russia is truly a country of extremes, glamour and poverty, vice and virtue, tradition and rebellion. Number 9. Festivals, fire, and fury. Russian festivals are as intense as its winters. Take Maslenitsa, the Slavic version of Mardi Gras, where people burn giant straw effigies to bid farewell to winter and welcome spring with pancakes, music, and fistfights. Yes, fistfights, it's tradition in some regions for young men to prove strength by brawling in the snow. New Year's Eve, not Christmas, is Russia's biggest holiday. Families gather around decorated trees, toast champagne at midnight, and listen to the president's speech. Instead of Santa Claus, children wait for Ded Moroz, Grandfather Frost and his granddaughter, Snegorochka, who bring gifts. And then, there's Victory Day on May 9th, one of the most sacred holidays. Military parades storm through Red Square, complete with tanks and missile launchers, reminding the world of Russia's role in defeating Nazi Germany. For many, it's a proud and emotional day. For others, it reflects the heavy militarization of Russian identity. But not all celebrations are official. Some of the wildest parties happen during student last bell traditions, where graduating teens jump into fountains, drink openly in parks, and celebrate freedom with chaotic energy. Would you dare to join such a celebration in Moscow? Number 10. Tourism between palaces and prison camps. Russia's tourist map is like no other. On one side, you have the grandeur of St. Petersburg with the Winter Palace, the Hermitage Museum, and canals that give it the nickname Venice of the North. On the other, you have Moscow's Red Square, where the colorful domes of St. Basil's Cathedral shine next to the Kremlin's grim fortress walls. But Russia's most shocking tourist spots are far from the cities. Travelers who dare can visit the Solovetsky Islands, once home to one of the first Soviet Gulag prison camps. Today, the crumbling barracks and barbed wire stand alongside a monastery, offering a chilling contrast between faith and suffering. Nature lovers head to Kamchatka, a volcanic peninsula with geysers, lava fields, and brown bears fishing in rivers. Few places on Earth feel so raw and untouched. Others seek the mystery of Lake Baikal, where ice in winter forms crystal shards that ring like bells under the wind. And here's something unusual. Russia even runs extreme tourism programs, where you can ride a real tank, fire Soviet weapons, or explore abandoned nuclear bunkers. Would you ever dare to mix history with danger on your vacation? Number 11. Food that both comforts and confuses. Russian cuisine is hearty, built for survival in long winters. Famous dishes include borscht, a beet soup rich with sour cream, and pelmeni, dumplings stuffed with meat. Then there's blini, thin pancakes often topped with caviar if you're wealthy, or just jam if you're not. But not all Russian food is easy for foreigners. Ever tried holodets? It's jellied meat, often served cold, wiggling on the plate. Or okroshka, a soup made with raw vegetables, sausage, and fermented kvass bread drink. Refreshing in summer, but shocking to first-timers. Alcohol is always close at hand. Besides vodka, Russians drink kvass, a lightly fermented bread soda, and samagon, homemade moonshine that can be dangerously strong. Many families in villages still brew their own, sometimes stronger than gasoline. Food is also deeply tied to culture. Guests are always offered something to eat, and refusing can be seen as rude. And if someone raises a glass and says, "Do DNA?" Bottoms up. A. You're expected to finish it in one go. Could you handle Russian hospitality? Number 12. Mysterious places and dark secrets. Russia is a land of mysteries that leave even scientists scratching their heads. Deep in Siberia lies the Potomsky crater, a huge mound of shattered rock discovered in 1949. Some say it's the result of a meteorite. Others whisper it's the crash site of an alien ship. To this day, no conclusive answer exists. Then there's the Kola superdeep borehole. humanity's deepest hole into the Earth. Soviet scientists drilled more than 12 kilometers down and had to stop because the rock was hotter than expected. Locals joke that workers heard voices from hell coming out of the hole. Science calls it nonsense, but the legend persists. Even entire towns can vanish into legend. The ghost city of Pyramiden, an abandoned Soviet mining settlement in the Arctic, looks frozen in time. Lenin's statue still stands, watching over empty apartments and a silent cultural hall. Tourists who visit describe it as walking into a post-apocalyptic film set. Is Russia simply too vast to ever fully understand, or does it deliberately keep some of its secrets hidden from the world? Number 13. Cost of living, cheap or crushing. Russia can be surprisingly affordable or shockingly expensive, depending on where you are. In Moscow, renting a modest one-bedroom apartment in the center can cost $1,200 a month, while in Siberian towns you can rent a whole house for under $300. Public transport is cheap and efficient. A metro ride in Moscow costs less than $1, and the stations look like palaces. Food prices vary. A simple meal in a local cafe might be $4, but in high-end restaurants with caviar and champagne, the bill can rival Paris. But here's the catch: salaries are much lower than in the West. The average monthly income hovers around $800, $1,000, meaning luxuries remain out of reach for many. That's why Russians often joke, "We pretend to work, and they pretend to pay us." Still, life is lived with intensity. Even on modest wages, Russians invest in fashion, cars, and celebrations. Weddings, for example, can cost a family their life savings. Do you think that's foolish or proof of how much Russians value living fully, despite hardships? Number 14. Survival tips for travelers. If you're visiting Russia, here are some tips to avoid trouble. First, never smile too much at strangers. Unlike in the West, smiling without reason can be seen as fake or even suspicious. Russians prefer a serious face until real friendship forms. Second, learn the local etiquette. When entering a home, always remove your shoes. When offering flowers, make sure it's an odd number, even numbers are for funerals. And never shake hands across a doorway. Locals say it brings bad luck. Third, beware of scams in tourist zones. Taxi drivers may charge foreigners triple, so use ride-hailing apps instead. In markets, bargain politely but firmly. And always carry your passport. Police checks are common, and not having ID can cause big problems. Finally, prepare for the cold. Moscow in winter can drop to 20 degrees Celsius, while Siberia plunges below 40 degrees Celsius. Without proper clothing, frostbite is a real risk. At the same time, Russian hospitality is warm. Once you earn trust, you may be treated like family. Number 15. Russia sinful, sacred, or simply human? So, is Russia truly the most sinful country of 2025? It depends on how you look at it. To outsiders, the mix of vodka, wild nightlife, corruption, and extremes of wealth and poverty might seem sinful. But to Russians, it's simply survival in a land where history, climate, and fate are harsher than anywhere else. Russia is a country of contradictions. Breathtaking beauty and shocking brutality, warm hearts and cold winters, churches full of gold beside villages in ruin. It is not a land that fits into one category, it is a land that swallows categories whole. And perhaps that's why Russia fascinates the world. Because in its contradictions, we see not just sin, but the raw extremes of human existence. What do you think? Is Russia sinful, sacred, or simply misunderstood? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, hit like, share, and subscribe to James Baker, Discovery Global. Turn on notifications so you won't miss our next deep dive into the world's most shocking, surprising, and mind-blowing countries.